Hey, 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 I am so super excited. Listen, for the CEO Fix today, TADAY, we got the one, the only Coach Vic, elevated authority. Listen here. I'm not going to even pretend like I can lay out all of his bio or anything like that, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You know what we do. We come into this space and we're talking about the real deal that's going to help you do what? Flip the CEO switch. You are tired of wearing 60 hats. You are tired of trying to wrap your arms around all of the processes in your business. You are tired of the issues you're having with your mindset. You are tired, period. There's nothing even after that. And we're gonna have a real conversation about it. Like I'm gonna be bold enough to say we two of the realest mofos out there, and this about to go down. Vic, my brother in coaching, how are you today?
I'm amazing, Tarkessa. Good to see you. Oh, it was so
Good to be
good to get
seen.
this invite.
Got the criticize,
Yeah,
crunked up, but that's fine. That's life. It's part of life. So
exactly.
you already know what we're here to do. Here's what I would like for you to do. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your work. Um, and just for those of you who don't know you and love you like I do, tell them why they should be a fan of you like I
Well, I'm humbled by that, but I will share a little bit about me. So here's the skinny on Vic. I'm Coach Vic. I'm a motivational speaker by passion, but I am an executive coach by profession. So my areas of expertise are leadership development and diversity and inclusion. So I tell people that makes me the coach's coach, hence the name. Now, what do? I teach people, right? Specifically leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, leaders of their family, and anybody who aspires to be a leader, how to embed purpose-driven habits.
am.
Purpose-driven habits, right?
That part.
And in that, you got to have the mindset, the deliberate and intentional mindset that goes with it. And I do that work because honestly, when I was learning how to become a leader in the corporate space, as well as learning how to become a leader of my family, I realized I didn't have it. I realized that I didn't have the skill sets nor the mindset that was going to sustain the level of success that I had built up to that point, nor was I going to be able to achieve the achievement level that I desired. Mm. So I had to get help. I first started to educate myself. I started to read. I got me a coach, right? The coach got a coach.
You're not gonna speed. I'm like in my Kevin Hart voice. You're not gonna speed past that like you just said what you just said. Like the coach needed a coach. I don't know who needed to hear that, but the coach needed a coach. But go ahead.
Nobody gets to where they're going by themselves. So I got a coach. I educated myself, and I found a way to remove the obstacles that were standing in my way. And along that journey, what I realized is I was one of my own biggest obstacles. Mm. So I had to get me out of the way. And for a lot of people, a lot of leaders, a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs, that's the case. We are our own biggest leaders. So now I give back to my community. I'm a bridge builder. People will often see somewhere I'm talking about being a purpose addict. I'm addicted to pursuing my purpose. And so part of that means I have to give back to those coming after me. So now I help people to elevate. Yeah. And we just do it together.
Listen, addicted to purpose though. Like that's powerful. We've all had jobs, but a calling is something different. Like a job, you'd be like, okay, I'm clocking out. Put that over there to like, no, a calling, you be in the middle of the night, like, I'm just trying to go to sleep. Yep. I'm running out of paper on my nightstand. I'm just trying to go to sleep. And so for you to say addicted to purpose, like that's a whole nother other level of that. And I feel like that'll resonate with those that are tuning in, because entrepreneurship is a calling. Making the decision to become a business leader, that's a calling. It is not for the faint of heart, and it ain't always fun, right? Mm-hmm. It ain't always happy, shiny pictures, and you know how people be taking their pictures. It's not always the brand photos, right? Like that's something deep. And especially when you are the leader, like what keeps you showing up though? Like how did you, okay. What was the catalyst for you? Like we all have that moment when we like, oh, we got the S on our chest. Like this is, I'm not just this, I am this. Like what was the catalyst for you?
I wish I could pin it down to one thing, to be quite honest with you, right? The area that I would probably give all the credit to is my responses to the changes that was happening in my life. And anybody who's heard me speak or you've been a part of any of my workshops, you'll hear me talk about this, that a lot of times people choose to be victims, right? Choose to be victims in the sense of you have no control over your outcome and it must be somebody else's or something else's fault. When really, one of my mentors taught me this. He taught me you have more control over your outcomes than you think, right? He said, an event happens, you respond to it, and an outcome is produced. He taught me a formula. He said, E plus R equals O. What he taught me was an event happens, my response to it is going to determine the outcome.
Yeah.
And when he said outcome, I'm thinking, okay, we tend to think outcome, and there's a connotation that's wrapped around it. If I asked you what's the difference between an outcome, a result, and a consequence, would you be able to tell me the difference?
I have to think on it. I immediately know a consequence is it's a negative, right? It can be a negative. When I think about result, I think positive.
And here's the thing about it. When we talk about the mindset wrapped around this, if you look in the dictionary of all three terms, they're a synonym of each other. So technically, they are the deliverable that is produced from work. So outcome, consequence, and result are all the same word. We just have wrapped our head around that a consequence is negative.
Yeah.
It's all about life and how you see it. So when the events happen in your life, how you choose to respond to them determines the outcome, the consequence, or the result.
Yeah.
Is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative? So for me, the catalyst was realizing that when events happened in my life, I got a choice to make. I could choose to be a victim. I could choose to say that I have no control over what this outcome will be, or I can say, how can I make this work? And so that was my solution. I systematically learned how to ask myself a question when events happen. And that question was, how can I make this work?
Wow. Listen, that was school right there. The power of mindset, and also self-awareness around your mindset. And if you can't be honest with yourself, if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't grow.
Listen, every time you point the finger at something or someone, you got three pointing back at you. Look at your hand.
Yeah.
But we give ourselves a pass.
Yeah.
We don't hold ourselves to the same expectation of execution that we do everybody else. So when we can learn to get over that, then we can make some serious progress. But that takes some time and it takes some work.
Yeah. Let's talk about legacy, because that's where I feel like that leads to, when you have that shift in the mindset where you understand you have more control over your outcomes than you've been previously led to believe or decided to believe. How do leaders leave healthy legacies? How do they do that?
It's, for me, simple. Now, it took me some time, and a lot of the people that I end up coaching think that it's complicated, but it's not. But what I try to get people to understand is that healthy habits lead to healthy legacies. And so if you could focus on embedding the healthy habits that can be passed down to the generations coming after you, then you will be able to leave a healthy legacy. Example, you talk about legacy. How do you define a legacy? So when you think about that, what is your definition?
Now, for me, I'm like, I think about it like fivefold. I think about it spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and also generationally. That's how I think about legacy. And so when it comes to, and you and I have had a conversation about some things that my daughter's gone through, I'm like, I'm proud of the legacy and the work ethic that she has. Now we got to work on the self-care part of the legacy. And so you're right, it goes right into those habits. But how do you even begin to identify those habits that's kind of shaping your legacy?
It's hard for some people to envision that far down the road. But if you could, your audience, as they're watching this, I want you to think about your grandkids. You already have them or future ones. And I want you to think about the answer to this question. Imagine your grandkids or your great grandkids ask you, what kind of person should I be? Think about what your answer would be to that. What kind of person should I be?
Wow.
And if you work backwards from there, you right now will determine if they are that kind of person based on the habits that you exhibit and model right now for your kids, who will then exhibit and model behavior for their kids. I'll give you an example. My son, I stopped drinking. I used to drink alcohol, but I stopped drinking because when he was younger, he was probably about 10 years old. I remember one Thanksgiving, I'm sitting down and I'm watching football. We just ate. And he comes up to me and he says, aren't you going to have a drink? I said, I got a drink. It was a red cup sitting next to me on the ground. He was like, no, aren't you going to have a drink? I said, I got a drink. What do you mean? He said, uncle comes over and y'all always have a drink. He was talking about an adult beverage. My son at 10 years old told me how much he was paying attention to my habits.
Wow.
And so that got me thinking, does he also think that periodically when a man comes home, he's supposed to have an alcoholic beverage after work? What does he see in terms of habits and how he's supposed to act? So thinking down the road, what do I want my kids
right.
to think is how they should be? I need to be modeling that behavior now. So I'm passing down those behaviors. I'm talking to my kids about entrepreneurship, because you can either work hard for your own dreams or find yourself working hard for somebody else's.
That's a word right there.
That part. I'm talking to my kids about financial literacy.
Yeah.
I wish someone told me about investing, stocks, and what that can do.
Yeah.
So I can't go back to 20 years old, but they are 20. Let's talk about investing and let's learn together.
Oh, man.
I'm talking to them about how do you tell one another that you need help? Because although our family might have a track record of success and achieving, that doesn't mean that you know how. Just because you watched it don't mean you can do it. So let's talk about those steps. The same clarity and lessons that I learned about my business and growing it, I turn around and share it with them. My daughter and my son are working on building their own businesses using the lessons that I learned, because I'm committed to being a legacy builder.
Yeah.
And that's how you embed those healthy habits.
Man, listen, that right there, that's a Jay-Z moment right there. that's a lot of game for free right now. Like, I'm just saying. And again, we're talking about leadership. We're talking about legacy, healthy legacy, because see, legacy is, right? Healthy legacy is intentional. Like, you putting some thought into it, just like you said. And when I think back to some of the things that, my grandparents left me that I know they didn't intend to, man, that's deep. Mm-hmm. Right. One of the questions we talked about a couple weeks ago is like, for those of you who are building businesses, would you want your child, your loved one, to come in and run your business the way that it is now? Is it going to stress them out? Is it going to give them peace? Is it going to give them freedom? If not, then why is it okay for you?
Exactly.
I mean, that's that right there. And so that kind of brings to my next question is like, what is a tip or a tool? Because I know you got them. What's a tip or a tool that you recommend to help leaders better use their time and value their time? Because remember, we're talking about balance. This isn't just team, no sleep, and hustle and all of that kind of stuff, because I'm not with that. I needs me a nap. I needs me a nap. I need me some time where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing in this time, but it's about me. So what types of tools or tips do you have to help a leader use their time better and value their time more effectively?
Yeah. So I can't give away the whole toolbox.
Of course.
At least not pro bono, right?
Understood.
But what I will say is it starts with a mindset. Here's the first thought. Quote I learned a long time ago: never let someone else's urgency turn into your emergency. I'll say that again. Never let someone else's urgency turn into your emergency. And it's very easy, especially if you started out in a corporate space. You're going about your day on your computer. You get an email from your boss that's asking you a question. They're not saying I need it right now, but we have this reaction to, oh, let me drop everything and answer that. And so what I had to learn how to do is not let that urgency or perceived urgency now become my emergency, because what it would do would throw me off in my rhythm and what I was doing. I was in a moment, I was in a thought. And for entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
You could be right in the middle of gold. And now because somebody asked you a question, you got a text message, something, you done lost that gold. You only got this much time to get it right.
Yeah.
So never let someone else's urgency turn into your emergency. And so what I do in return is when I get questions, I will often ask, when do you need this back by? Just that simple question. When do you need this back by? Because then what I can share with you within my own time, when I'll be able to do that, if I can do it, because maybe you need it back at a time that I can't fulfill. Right. And that's important for me to know, as well as for you. And so after a while, people work with me, they'll start to send me emails and ask me questions and go, I need it back by here. So now I don't even have to ask that question. Let me get you together.
Right there. Let me get you together.
Let me get you together. Right. But you know, there's a lot of people who say that, let me get you together, but they don't know how to get you together. I get you together. When it comes to my time, I'm going to get you together.
Right. So boundaries is boss.
Hey, absolutely. If not, hands talk.
See, this is why they don't take us anywhere. This is why we get together and it's a whole other thing. But you know what? How simple is that? It is something about us, just like you said, be in the middle of something. Like, yeah, it's flowing. And then bing, boop, something vibrating. It's like, squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
How many tabs do you have open across the top of your... He said, don't count.
Oh my gosh.
Don't count the tabs. Because that is real. And that represents what's going on in here. Like, you got 36 tabs open. You got 36 tabs open.
Yep.
Your computer freezing up, you too.
Yep.
Same thing. And the little, what is the reel now? Like, I don't even know where the music coming from. Like, which one playing the music? I don't even know who's talking. Like, that's real. Having those internal boundaries that help you to flourish externally. It's a big deal. And it's a part of legacy building. That's a tremendous habit to have. How, outside of that, how do you guard and protect your time? How do you do that, Vic?
You know, first, I plan my time so it doesn't give somebody else an opportunity to plan it for me. That's right. Good. Right. Because if I ask you the question, when do you need this back by? I am thinking about my schedule that is already planned. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out if I can fit it in. So now in that whole scenario, the other thought is I have to ask myself, and I will ask other people, the goal you want to accomplish, am I the one that actually has to execute it? Because as a CEO, as a leader, if you have a team of people, one of the best things you can do to develop them is to delegate work and responsibility to them. So I guard and protect not only my time, but my team's time. And when you think about entrepreneurship, here's really where it becomes important, because I was one of those people. At the corporate job, I worked hard. I showed up early. I stayed late because I was trying to climb my way to the top. But who suffered? My family. Yeah. They didn't get the best of me when I showed up at home. Yeah. And so to get that balance, when I think about the responsibilities, yes, I want to be the one who does it, because nobody's going to do it at my level, right? And that's what a lot of people think. Nobody's going to do it like me. Right. What we're saying is, I don't trust anybody to do it like me because I didn't articulate to them what they need to do. Not clearly, not effectively. So I'll give this one for free. When you talk about what does effective communication look like when you're delegating, here's real 4 simple, quick checklists. delegate the task that needs to be done, the expected results from that task, the due date in which that task and those results should be produced by, and the larger why this work is important, so people don't feel like they're just doing busy work or the work that you don't want to do. Now that one's on the house. But when you talk about how to effectively communicate, if I've shared with you not only what you need to do, what you need to produce from it, when you need to do it by, and why it's important, meaning how it affects me and the work that I'm doing, because you're just the first leg of this.
Yeah.
How can you not produce at the same level that I would? Now, I might have to tweak some things along the way, but after a while, you should produce where I produce, which means now you get elevated, which means we get elevated.
Yeah. That's gold right there. I don't know. We're going to pause because somebody's still writing, because you needed to write that down.
I hope this is a replay that they can put on rewind.
They will be, right? Like save it, all the things, so that you can get to it, because that's real. Here's what I love about that. I'm not going to even lie. I was prepared for you to be like, it's a thing, it's a download, it's an app, it's a blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no.
You already got it.
It's an internal boundary that you properly express, that you properly relay, so that people, because nobody's in here. Well, I mean, sometimes there'll be people in there because I'm a writer, but
I got a couple characters in here too.
I was going to say, but that's different.
Yeah, you're not alone.
We'll talk about that later. But, there's nothing worse than having people on staff and they twiddling their thumbs and you overwhelmed. Talk about mad, but you ain't got nobody to be mad at but yourself. Like, they're like,
it
okay,
always
Chief,
boils down to you.
You didn't tell me what to do. You didn't tell me what you needed. If you have employees, and we've all been here, if you have employees who are coming to you and saying, how can I help you? What do you need? You're not communicating properly how they can help you, what you need. Y'all have seen the content before. # delegate to elevate. Master delegation.
Yeah.
That right there is an amazing tool. So listen,
now don't get me wrong. I do have a tool.
I know
but
you do.
I only reserve that for when I'm coaching with somebody, right?
Understood. I already knew. That's why I ain't even asked.
Okay.
I ain't even put you on the spot.
That's very clear.
I ain't even put you on the spot. You know
I
how
can get you together.
They'd be like, slide it to me in my hand. Like, no, I ain't even do you like that.
No, that's not how this works.
But okay, so you got the boundary. And so say somebody's watching this and now they're putting those things in place. How do they, remember this, how do they reclaim their time? How do they start to basically, for lack of better terminology, start training people around them who've never had to encounter this? Because it's going to be some pushback. It's going to be even internally like, I can't say that. I can't do that. Like, how do they reclaim that time and put those boundaries in place?
Really and truly, the simple answer is communication, communication, communication. People don't know what you need until you tell them. So work with your team as you are trying to figure out what it is you need them to do. You need to communicate. And for some of us, especially entrepreneurs, the CEO who started the business, who started with the vision, right? And nobody sees it the way that they see it.
Yeah.
They have to get those thoughts out of their head and on paper. I think it's Adam Grant is a thought leader in leadership development. And he says, clear writing is clear thinking. It might be James Clear, one of those two. Clear writing is clear thinking. And as a writer yourself, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. If you can get it out, right, it makes it easier and clearer for people. One of those things that you got to also communicate is, I know I need help and I'm not sure how. So you got to get clarity of vision, because if people can connect the work that they're doing with the vision and they can articulate it themselves, why their work is important, you'll get their very best when they show up. So how do you reclaim time? We talk about delegation. One simple trick is to rank the things you need to do. You need a ranking system. You need a way to rank the things that you are doing, because if everything's important, then nothing's important. So as you're going about your day and things pop up or you transition throughout your day, you need to know what needs to come next. Oftentimes we say, I got this whole laundry list And we say all of it's important. And then we only end up doing two things. And the only thing we really end up doing is disappointing ourselves.
Right.
So
100%.
You got to rank the things you need to get done, right? And commit to seeing those things through. And when you talk about how delegation works with that hand in hand, after you do your list, pick one thing to delegate to your team. And maybe that thing, let's say, takes an hour typically for you to do. You now get an hour back that day. And if you did that every day, let's just say 5 days is your work week, that's 5 hours a week. If you did that for the month, that's 20 hours for the month. Now, somebody in the chat put how much that is a year.
Yeah, let's math it
That's
up.
how much time you reclaim back. What could you do with that time?
Listen, I was like, that's a vacation. Let's go on vacation.
That's multiple, right?
Yeah. That's how you
now keep in mind. Keep in mind, though, we're chasing something unrealistic, right? What most people do, if you free up time, there's some CEO right now talking about, I do delegate, I do get it off my plate. And I just still end up with most stuff on my plate, because that's what we do. We take stuff off of our plate, or as we get more organized and reduce the amount of chaos, we now put more stuff on our plate, and it's just better organized chaos. The thing that we're chasing is a feeling of control, that we are in control of our time, because there's so many things that tell us we don't control time. Yeah. We don't know when the day nor the hour will come when we leave this place.
Yeah.
So we're chasing control of time. And this is one of the many ways you can reclaim control, not time. You're trying to reclaim control of your time.
Listen, you know, I could sit at your feet all day. Like you have, first of all, I have things to work on. I feel convicted.
I came down your street. The pastor, don't worry, I'm coming down your street.
Right. I was like, hey, he out there. But, you know, 100%, if you don't pull the Band-Aid off, you know, I can't see that it's still not healed. So I so appreciate you. Listen, I couldn't imagine kicking this off with anybody else. You are the truth. No, you the truth.
I appreciate it. Put that D on there.
100% a resource that you're changing the face. First of all, you're changing the face of corporate America. That's facts, right? The other part of that is this: you're changing the way that we do business. We being the solopreneur, the visionary, the dreamer. And I cannot thank you enough for all the work that you do. And I know that my audience got some work to do. If you would, let us know how to get in touch with you, how to connect with you, how to follow you, how to stalk you online, all the things, so that, you know, so that they can get this good information that you're sharing on a regular.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 avenues to connect with me. The first, I got a podcast that I co-host called Purpose Addicts. And my co-host and I, we share all kinds of tips and tricks as we talk about life. And what you'll find is we are 2 friends who've been friends more than 20 years, who took very different paths, looked up and found ourselves at the exact same place, addicted to pursuing purpose. The next place I'll send you is my social media. You can find me, Coach Vic 20. I'm on Instagram. You can catch me on LinkedIn. You can catch me on Facebook. That's the best way to connect with me. Don't hesitate to reach out on social media. If you follow me, I'm usually posting a daily motivational message called Inspiring Greatness. I put lessons from leadership. I'm going to start doing some lives and some videos to connect with the audience a little bit more, because there seems to be a demand for it from my audience and my community. So we're going to up the game in 2022. If you want to contact me directly, especially if you want to talk about booking coaching sessions, whether group or solo or keynote, email me at coachvic@elevatedauthority.com. Elevatedauthority.com. I just want to see you elevate. So let's elevate together.
Thank you so much again. Listen, for those of you who are able to catch this and watch the replays and things like that, this is the real work of operating a business. This is so much more. And don't get me wrong, branding and all of those things are important, but the internal game of the the visionary, the CEO drives the business forward. If your internal game is not together, if you don't have business, if you don't have boundaries, if you don't have a vision for legacy, then what are you doing? What are you doing? So use this information. Again, thank you, Coach Vic. This was amazing. We will see you guys next time on the CEO Fix.